really sit down and talk to patients and providers, they have the same problems. They're just from different sides. The tools of technology, we've been limited by having laptops and all of these devices in front of us, and that interrupts the most precious thing about healthcare, which is the relationship you have with the caregiver.
Our product is actually the patient-provider interaction. And it's the relationship, it's the trust.
We ended up creating the Intelligent Hospital Room, which uses AI listening devices and cameras in rooms that allow our caregivers to operate far more efficiently. And it's significantly increasing the quality of the patient experience.
It's piloting in its purest sense because the company doesn't even know sometimes, like, will this work? Will this product work?
Hi everybody, I'm Sara Edwards and we are here from UH Ventures. I'm going to introduce my wonderful coworkers, Matt Zenker, Director of Deal Flow and Investments at UH Ventures, and James Russ, the Program Manager of Data and AI and Radiology at UH Ventures. You have a very long title for Radically. Yeah. So thank you for having us. Matt, we'll start with you. What do we do at UH Ventures?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So I'm Matt Zenker. Like Sara said, I'm a director for UH Ventures. So what UH Ventures does, so we're the innovation and commercialization arm of the healthcare system. We see a lot of things. A lot of ideas basically come through our doors at UH. So this could be from an employee, or a physician, a nurse, any kind of employee can submit ideas to us, and we have to find ways. Is this? We have to vet it. We have to say, is this impactful? Is there a commercial market to this? And we will help that caregiver actually commercialize their solutions. So that's what we call our inside out function, and we'll not only license some of those technologies, we'll spin out companies, invest in those companies. So we've got an ever-growing pipeline of technologies that are coming in from within UH. And then where I sit is really what we call our outside in, which is working with startups, working with early stage companies, trying to find what the foot in the door could be at UH. It's really difficult, if you can imagine, at a big company, let alone a healthcare institution, how to find the right person that could use this technology. How do you get through all of the bureaucracy and these IT committees and legal, all those kinds of things. So we help those companies, especially if they're addressing a need that we've identified. We'll do what we can to actually support them through the process. And then on the other side of that, we actually invest in companies. So once we have a relationship or we have a really good feel for what the relationship could look like, we'll invest in. We'll invest in early stage companies. We actually have a pre-seed fund that we co-manage with Jumpstart here in town that's focused on the earliest stages. And then we've also invested up through Series C. So we're very opportunistic. But on top of that, I think that's the inside out. We've got the outside in. We do a lot more kind of in between and on the sides. And I think, James has a good example of that as well as Sara. So I'll let you guys describe what you do as well, because there's a lot more to it.
All right, it's on. Hi everyone, my name is James Russ, and as Matt mentioned, I'm one of the arms of UH Ventures in terms of a program. So I fall within UH Ventures. I report into UH Ventures, but I manage the Radiology AI and Diagnostic Innovation Collaborative. We have an AI lab. I sit up with our clinical research team, our radiology clinical research team, and work with our radiology informatics clinical research, and obviously ventures to kind of bridge the different work streams throughout the institution. So what we do, it's sort of expansive, right, in terms of kind of co-development, collaboration with companies. So companies come in the door, whether they come through UH Ventures or through one of our other sources, and they're looking for one of many different things. Sometimes they need data, right? They're trying to commercialize and launch a product in the United States. Well, in order to do that, in order to get through the FDA process, they need US data to train their models, their algorithms. And so we do that, but we don't just provide them data willy-nilly, right? We work with them to make sure it's done in a very ethical, de-identified manner. We do all of that in-house so we can ensure that nothing is leaving the institution that shouldn't be leaving the institution. We also will collaborate to do the actual training of the model. So we have clinical champions throughout the institution that can help train different AI models and help commercialize and kind of be advocates to drive overall AI adoption within radiology. So that's sort of the 5,000 foot view, I'd say, of what the program does. I won't give you the entire pitch unless you come to us and you want to work with us. So I'll pass it then to Sara to talk about Veal.
Yeah, I'm Sara Edwards. I'm the Director of Design for the Veal Initiative for Healthcare Innovation. We are a donor-funded program that is designed to find healthcare's biggest and most pressing problems. If you've ever had a healthcare experience, you know that healthcare has tons of problems that need to be solved. And one of the tenets that we are working on is to bring cross-functional teams together like entrepreneurs do and like tech startups do to solve those problems through innovative means. So through design and technology and people and process so that we can create better healthcare experiences for both our clinicians and caregivers, as well as the patients that experience it. And one of the things I love about our work at UH Ventures is we do all of these things with kind of a very small team of people who aren't clinicians at all. So I'm curious, what brought each of you to UH Ventures? And maybe we can start with James.
Sure. So I'm fairly new to UH. I've been with the institution for about 9 months. Prior to UH, I was with KPMG in a product management role. So I'm a product manager by background. I managed our AI ML platform at the firm called KPMG Ignite. And prior to that, I was actually, this was my first job out of my undergrad, was a product manager for Philips Healthcare. So a lot of people know Philips as the people that make Norelco razors and toothbrushes and stuff like that. Well, really the largest part of Philips is this entire medical technology arm of the company. And so I first worked with the CT business, which is actually based here in Cleveland. If you didn't know, Cleveland is a big hub for a lot of CT manufacturers. And then after that, moved out to Boston and was product manager with the echocardiogram modality within the business. And so what brought me to UH Ventures, it was interesting, right? I was at KPMG, I was doing a lot of cool stuff, right? And my background being more of a business background, not a technical person by trade. I mean, we had a lot of different AI applications at Philips, but then when I got into this role at KPMG, it was like drinking from a fire hose, right? I was working with a data science team every single day, needing to learn how to speak their language, needing to learn how to navigate, right, this kind of new world of AI. And also, this was before ChatGPT was like a big thing, right? So this was before it was cool, and so it was really kind of learning something new for me. And just after a year, I found myself managing over 70 different, a pipeline of over 70 different AI solutions. So when I was looking for then a job, because it became to be very busy, I was traveling a lot, right? The consulting sort of life is it's fine, but I was looking to kind of settle down a little bit and stop so much travel, and found this really cool role at UH Ventures, actually through Case Western, where I was doing my MBA at the time, and it just seemed like a great fit. It was radiology, which is where I started my career, and it was AI, where I was currently working, and so it was kind of a mash of both of my prior experiences into a single role. So that's ultimately what brought me.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, so I know I'm at a tech talk here, but I was an English major, and it took me a long time to realize that I guess I can do tech or whatever that means. So my journey was I started out doing in town doing grant writing. I found a boutique government affairs firm that was doing grant writing on behalf of early stage companies as well as bigger companies and also institutions. So I realized as a writer, and again, I always thought like, as an English major, you think like, I'll be a teacher someday, or I'll be like, an artist, or I'll write scripts or something. But I just started, writing grants and realizing that I'm pretty good at it. And a lot of the grants that we would write were all around, the business problems or, these problems and solutions. And you're actually crafting a full story around why the funding should come in, but what you're actually going to do with it and all of those things. And so I realized after a while that actually translated to a lot of things, and a lot of healthcare institutions write grants. So that was kind of my foot in the door. I actually came through Cleveland Clinic Innovations first, and used a lot of those talents to not just write grants, but we were doing marketing. We were doing all kinds of things. So I was just getting involved in wherever people needed writing, and I realized that not only am I writing down the ideas, I'm actually like coming up with the ideas and pitching the ideas, and so. So that kind of journey led me to believe like, all right, well, if I do all this kind of stuff, maybe I could actually write investment memos, or, I'm starting to kind of craft my perspective on markets and companies and those kinds of things. So I did go through Case Western part-time MBA, and through that program, actually ended up on the UH Ventures side, meeting some people through that program. And right at that same time, we were actually starting both in Cleveland. I don't know if you've heard of Plug and Play, but they were starting a new office in Cleveland, and they were trying to introduce new startups to both Cleveland Clinic and UH. And we had to build the muscle because UH Ventures was brand new at that time when I started. So we had to build a little bit of the muscles of what are we supposed to do with these startups. And so I got involved, and started working with them, and just kept working with them, and then started investing in them. And so that's kind of how it came to be.
Thanks for sharing. So I'm a designer, and my path to healthcare was actually through a patient perspective. So prior to my time at UH Ventures, I started last fall. I had never been in healthcare, and to be honest, I never really even thought about it because it wasn't something I thought about or consumed in my everyday life. And then I went through a long fertility journey, and UH was our family building partner. And it showed me this whole perspective of healthcare that I never saw before, and that most people don't get to see until they really, really need it. And through all of my experience in design and technology and building better services and products, I just thought there are so many things here that are wonderful, and there are so many things that could be solved in a much different way. And so after I had my daughter, I spent some time really thinking about what I wanted to do next. And thank you, Taylor Swift, for bringing era into our vernacular, what my next era would be. And I really wanted to focus on those types of problems. And when the opportunity for the Veal Initiative came across, it was perfect for me. So it's really exploring interesting problems and figuring out how to use design and technology to solve those and build that capacity within our organization with our clinical partners. So it's a really great, it's been a really wonderful experience so far. But we're here to talk about AI, which everybody is talking about AI. So I'm curious, what do you guys think? Since AI can solve everything, what do we think it can actually solve in healthcare? Where do we think its biggest opportunity is?
All right, I'll start. So there's so much opportunity. There's just like it's ridiculous, and then all eyes I feel like are on healthcare because there's just so much it can do from the clinical side, from the patient experience side. We were just talking about it. I mean, like you could just throw a dart anywhere in healthcare, and you could probably come up with a use case for AI. I think right now, when we think about Gen AI, I'll just, some of the areas that we're looking at right now are things like ambient listening in a doctor's office. If you were to have a phone up or whatever, a recording device in a doctor's appointment, what could that do for both the patient? What, if you had a summary of that visit, what could it do for the patient? What could it do for the provider? And our imaginations run away of like, that's all we've ever wanted. I mean, we're always just trying to take notes. We're bringing home pamphlets. Doctors are trying to remember what they said so they can put it in the chart. And there's referrals. There's all these things that they have to do as well. That there's just like this is it. This is what Gen AI is made for. And UH, to its credit, is running down that road. There's a lot of healthcare systems that are running down that road. That seems like a very great use case. Our providers are also suffering from they're in basket within Epic. They are staying up all night long, responding to fairly sometimes simple questions from patients, which we want to make sure we provide. But there's probably an opportunity for AI. So there's these little pockets of it's just so obvious we got to adopt it. And then there's also, from a clinical outcome side, that's where it gets a little bit trickier of how do we make sure we do this in a really responsible way if we're going to actually use AI to make treatment decisions or those kinds of things. It's a whole other ballgame. So there's so much opportunity there, but we also are being very careful. We have to be very responsible when it comes to decisions that we make with healthcare. But the good news is that we are building the pipes, I would say, right now. And we've actually built some pipes. Maybe, James, you can talk about AI is not that new to healthcare.
Yeah, so, and as Matt mentioned, AI's been used, whether, you've known it from the patient side or not, for quite a while, right? But mostly in ways that are far less complex or as transformative as we're seeing today, obviously given emergence of large language models and Gen AI. But across healthcare, where I think that there could be a lot of impact and where there already is a lot of impact being made is in the radiology space. So I kind of mentioned that AI has been used for quite a while. Well, it's been used primarily in radiology. There are other modalities in which it's been used, but because radiology is technology native, right? You have to have an X-ray machine or a CT scanner to do radiology. And so, being that it's already, it's been technology heavy its entire life, the adoption of AI within radiology is able to happen far quicker than in other places, and obviously the use case as well. So when you think about if you're getting a CT scan, right, you have a radiologist, they're going through hundreds and hundreds of images a day, right? They're doing their diagnosis. And so AI in radiology, a really big use case is assisting in that diagnosis, right? Just like how, you can upload a picture to to ChatGPT or something and have it say, oh, what's the animal in this picture? And it's like, oh, it's a pig. Well, obviously it's more of a complex model, but you can kind of do the same thing with a clinical image. And so you can upload a chest CT and it can, based off of this model, potentially detect something that maybe would have gone undetected by, before, given the radiologist, right? There is a lot of misdiagnoses a lot of times. And so we're seeing more and more radiology models being deployed that are, helping facilitate, with incidental findings, which ultimately, creates a lot of impact. So, radiology obviously is something that, and I actually don't know how obvious it is. You probably don't think about radiology when you think about AI, but, kind of think about it in terms of it's been there for a while, and now it's really getting far more, more and more complex over time, and obviously pathology as well. So, cancer care, right? Doing, having different applications for, cell therapies and so forth is another big one. So anything where there's imaging involved, it's really scaling far faster than maybe some of the other modalities. But that's what I would say. I'm not sure if...
Some of the things I'm most excited about of usages of AI in healthcare are really a lot of things that would remove the burden for patients. So you think about all the tasks that you need to do to actually get into the system, whether it's schedule an appointment or find the right provider for you or understand the results that the provider sends back to you. AI can really help translate a lot of that information to our clinicians in a way that takes the information that you have in your body and they have in the lab results and connects those together in a really, it starts to speak the same language. So that's one of the things I think is most magical about the possibility of LLMs. And one of the things I always think that is interesting, it's a tenet in how our providers practice and all medical students train, is that the knowledge is inside of the patient. But healthcare's made it super hard to get that knowledge outside of the patient. They ask you all these questions that you don't understand and with words that make you feel dumb if you have to ask what they mean. And I think the promise that I get so excited about is the ability to translate and speak that same language can be really magical. And even if you think about people who speak English as a second language and all of the different applications of that, it can be really life-changing, and make sure that they're communicating, that the feelings and experiences that they're communicating are heard by the clinicians in a way that is impactful to them. I don't want to put you on the spot, James, but you actually co-authored a paper with me recently that is a great framework about how we might integrate AI into academic healthcare systems like ours at UH. Do you want to talk a little bit about care-centered AI?
So myself and Sarah, we just recently, went through the process of writing a paper, and it's kind of interesting, right? When we think about AI, right? Every institution, they kind of all coin their term for, their approach to AI. We hear about human-centered AI, we hear about data-centered AI. You can make it what you want. And I remember one day reading, it was in it was for the Stanford Institute of Human-Centered AI, sort of their definitions, their approach, and it really kind of lit me up a little bit with excitement, because I had yet to see something kind of specifically for healthcare that took a human-centered approach and maybe wrapped it up and maybe reframed it in a way that was, not just human-centered, but also, care-centered. Something that was focused on the entire, care continuum between the provider and the patient. And so, Sara, we got together and we started to think about what this means. And she was instrumental in helping define it, given her design background and her perspective. And so care-centered AI really is call it the paradigm, or the relationship, the core between the patient and the caregiver, and how AI touches each, right? So when we think about where AI is in a healthcare institution, right, on the clinical side, to be very delicate with how these things are integrated, right? I mean, in radiology, for example, we have tons of AI solutions that are already deployed, and as part of that, we have to think about how that's impacting that clinician's workflow. If it's something that is going to be disruptive or confusing, heck, if they don't trust it because they don't understand it, right? There's a lot of times where we have clinicians that just, they don't know how this model is operating, and so therefore, why would they trust it, right? So it's thinking about how can we center and adopt AI solutions within UH that, make sure that it's not disruptive, make sure that everything is trustworthy and is centered on pinpointing and solving for specific issues. So we're not just adopting things that are cool, right? There's something new in AI that's cool that's launched every day, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's solving anything, right? So again, bringing it back to the definition, if we call it that, of care-centered AI, it's making sure that we're doing what we need to do and having the underlying philosophy that kind of guides us in adopting, using, AI tools that are actually centered on the caregiver. And then on the patient side, I'm going to pass that to you, because I think you do a really good job of explaining.
Thank you. I'm sure all of us have had an experience where you've been at the doctor's office and the doctor is sitting in front of you, staring deep into their laptop, trying to capture all of the information that you're sharing with them, and you don't really feel like they're paying attention to you. And part of that is the way that the tools of technology, we've been limited by having laptops and all of these devices in front of us, and that interrupts the most precious thing about healthcare, which is the relationship you have with the caregiver. They're there to listen to you, and you need to feel listened to so that you trust them with the most important thing in the world, which is your health and livelihood. So one of the things, and technology always has paradoxes in it, but one of the things that's really cool is that this innovation in technology will actually free us from having those devices in between us. So it'll actually recenter our relationships because it helps prioritize the needs of providers. They need to connect with you and to be able to understand you and examine you in a way that helps them understand what is going on. And you need to be able to build that trust. And that's one of the things I loved about working with you on the care-centered AI is that all of these, often in technology, we design for one audience, but healthcare is this magical place where if you really sit down and talk to patients and providers, they have the same problems. They're just from different sides. They experience them differently, but nobody likes a laptop in between them. So that's, as we've thought about from the patient side, we really bring in a lot of human-centered principles. So making sure that we're including a diverse set of stakeholders, that we partner with ethicists so that they can help us understand the things that we might not understand. I'm a designer. I can't tell you about all the ethics of algorithms, but I can work very collaboratively with someone to help me understand them. We also start with the problem first, because even though AI is the hottest thing on the block right now, it's not the right solution for every problem. And so that's one of the core tenets as well. And so it's been resonating really well with our caregivers and our teams at work. And so I was really glad to partner with you on that.
And I'll jump in on your on your article here, but I think like what you've highlighted here, and it's if you zoom out from healthcare or from a healthcare institution, and you think about like what is our product at UH? What is the product that we are offering? You could say health, but there's so many other things that are promising health. Our product is actually the patient-provider interaction. And it's the relationship, it's the trust. And anybody can, if there weren't us, then, you could technically, the FDA wouldn't allow it, but you could go get a drug from anywhere. You could, go to ChatGPT and ask them, what do you think about my symptoms? But what we sell, and that sells are kind of a dirty word in healthcare, but what we sell is this trust and this sacred relationship. So we have to. It's tempting to think like, oh, we can just put a chatbot in between our provider and patient, but then if we do that, and we don't have a product anymore. So we have to think of this in like a business way too, but it's not the right way. It's not always the right way to think about it, but it kind of helps you, again, protect that sacred relationship.
That's such a good segue into the intelligent hospital room. So one of the things that we're working on at UH Ventures and through the VEAL initiative is something we call the intelligent hospital room. It's a partnership with Outside In and VEAL, so they helped us do the due diligence to find the right partner. But one of the things that we heard our caregivers say all the time is, I really wish I had another set of hands so I could understand. I have too many things to do, and it's so hard for me to figure out what to do on the floor. And so we ended up creating the intelligent hospital room, which uses AI listening devices and cameras in rooms that allow our caregivers to operate far more efficiently. And before you start to get like freaked out about that, because there's a lot of fear around AI, we've been spending a lot of time with our patients to understand how that's impacting them, and it's significantly increasing the quality of the patient experience. So one of the benefits of that is our caregivers can be a little bit more thoughtful about when they enter into a room so that they're not disrupting you when you're sleeping. Or if you have a family member who's helping you with your care, they can sort of FaceTime in and speak with the doctors without having to sit there for 8 hours a day. So Matt, can you talk to us a little bit about how you helped us find the right partner for the intelligent hospital hospital room?
Sure. So this is part of that outside in process that we were talking about. Just the way that we have to look at the market. It takes a little bit of of a team to make sure that we're bringing the best in class solutions to the table, especially when this is a cutting edge area and everyone is diving in. I mean, this is like fresh from COVID. If anyone had that, terrible experience of being in the hospital during COVID, everyone was kind of like makeshift, like, hey, can we get a Zoom, an iPad in this room to just like talk to a nurse or talk to your family. So there's all kinds of like legacy things that we thought about during COVID, and how do we make sure that, those kinds of interactions can be regular, and how can we make sure that we do it in a way that improves the provider experience? So there were a lot of companies, as you can imagine, that just kind of like got spun up and said, "Oh, we're now like we're the virtual nurse, company. We're number one." So it takes a little bit of like, we have to go through the process from a UH standpoint. We can't just plug in anything. Our we have too much bureaucracy, too many people, too many opinions. We always in order to make it through our process, you've really got to have your, do your homework and all that kind of stuff. So, and we've got to do our homework too. So our outside in team helps to work through all those vendors. And some of these things are just promises. Like they haven't done it before. There's a lot like with the Intelligent Hospital Room that we're actually helping this company on their journey to get things approved, try out their AI. It's piloting in its purest sense, because the company doesn't even know sometimes, like, will this work? Will this product work? Will this? So we have to create the environment where an actual pilot and testing is appropriate and responsible alongside the patients. So we go through a whole process, and luckily from our side too, a lot of these, like I said, are early stage, so they're somewhat investable. So by working with these companies early on and going through all this process together, when I put on my investment hat, I'm looking to be like, if they can make it through and they're doing a really good job, we've got a pretty good bet here. So that's a little bit of our incentive, not only to do the work for the system, because we've got the muscles in the team to do it, but it's also like, there could be an opportunity here if we do this the right way. We could partner with this company for the long term. So that's how our process works.
That's one of the coolest things too, is we get to partner with them and work alongside those entrepreneurs, which is really fun. But because we're also at our core research scientists, not us particularly, but all of our partners, there's a lot of rigor that goes into how we're evaluating and measuring that success, which I also think is really cool. So we have a partnership with CASE to evaluate the success from a labor and productivity standpoint of having a virtual nursing integrated into our care team. So that's really cool. I have a couple lightning round questions for us as we're wrapping up. What is one of the biggest problems you want to solve in healthcare? Like in 5 years, 5 or 10 years, I'll put 10 years because healthcare takes a long time. What would you love to see change? Go for it. Yeah.
It's not AI, but nurse pay. I think nurses should get paid a lot more.
Yeah, they should.
A lot more. There is no reason a nurse shouldn't be making, should be making less than a lot of people that do far less of important and hard job. I mean, my fiance is a nurse, and over at Metro, some of those stories they'll make you feel some type of way. So nurse pay.
So there's one project that I've been working on for a long time, and it's been years working on it's a pretty small pilot, but it is super important for me to as a healthcare professional, if I can't get this over the line, I mean, what are we doing here? Kind of a project. So what I'm interested in, if you can think about, so one of the most the biggest drivers of healthcare, as you've probably heard, is lifestyle medicine. Your lifestyle, can impact a majority of health conditions, and there's a lot of patients that we see from all over that need that lifestyle intervention. That they come into our doctor's office and they say that they need it. Everybody agrees that they need it, but we as healthcare system don't really have the incentive structure or the capacity or the means to follow up with them and coach them through their lifestyle, their lifestyle changes, whether that be, one is medication adherence. That's an easy one of like, just take your medicine. But then there's also a lot of people that we don't have the, check in on their sleep, check in on their nutrition, check in on their stress management, check in on their social relationships. We talk about it in a doctor's appointment for 20 minutes. And we say, like, come back in 6 months and tell us how you did. And that just doesn't work. We all know it doesn't work, but we know lifestyle changes will impact so many things. So there are solutions out there for us to, keep tabs on our patients through, whether they be wearable devices. There's telehealth, obviously. But a lot of this comes down to just incentives and business models. And so there's a lot of companies out there that are figuring out within our health system that we have right now, which is, I think we all know there's many broken parts about our healthcare system, but if you can leverage the amount of, codes and interventions we can do, there are actual ways that we can be following up with our patients just telephonically, just calling them and saying, like, how are you doing today? How was your sleep last night? What did you eat? Do you have any questions for us in terms of your diet or whatever it might be? I don't know. There's something that gets me jazzed about that. Like, we can't just call our patients on a more regular basis and check in on their lifestyle. It feels like I said, what are we even doing here? But I will say that there's hope. There's a lot of cool companies out there that are figuring this out, and we're excited to be partnering with them.
So I'm going to end with one I think we should change, and one I think we will see change due to the work that our team has done at UH. First is they're both under the umbrella of healthcare equity. I think I would love to see the gap in healthcare inequity shrink. The first is I would like to see more funding go towards women's research, women's health research. So just this past week was Equal Research Health Day, but women weren't required to be included in healthcare trials until 1993. It's not a requirement, and most of the gaps in women's health are due to lack of funding and research invested in them. So that's one I'd like to see change that I don't know single-handedly we at UH Ventures can change, but we would like to, and we're investing in that. But secondarily, under the health inequities gap, is we have opened the Cutler Center for Men, and men are far less likely to go to the doctor just to take care of their health. So this is a PSA for all of the men here. Please go to the doctor regularly. But at the Cutler Center for Men, we have designed an innovative approach where we make it really easy for you. So I think you'll see the inequities in men in our particular communities go down due to the design of the Cutler Center for Men, which I'm really proud of the work that we've done there. So, yeah. So I think we're gonna wrap it up. But thank you so much to Polly and Tom for having us. And I don't know if we're gonna open for questions. No? Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. And please get your care at UH. We love you. Mm-hmm.
Or just care in general.
Yes, just get care in general.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, don't die. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, UH. We're going to have a brief intermission. I love you all.